Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Peak Wealth Podcast. I am your host, John Perry with Steel Peak Wealth Management. Today, we're going to do a little episode about total return investing. Now, obviously, there are all different types of motives people have for investing in the stock market, in bonds, and having done this for 30 years, one of the main investment philosophies that my father and I both had was total return investing. And how does that differ from just buying a stock, say like Apple, and holding it, and you're buying it because you want it to go up and appreciate, or buying a bond or a CD or something that's going to pay you an interest rate where you just give $10,000 and you're going to make 5%. And at the end of a certain period of time, you're going to get your $10,000 back. What total return investing is something of a combination of those types of philosophies. For example, if I'm going to buy a stock that pays a nice dividend, maybe it's an oil stock like Chevron, and it's paying me a 2.5 or 3% dividend, that's part of my return. And the goal here is to choose something that isn't only paying a dividend, but is also going to appreciate in value as well. And so, say at the end of 12 months, that stock, and like I said, in this case, we'll use something like Chevron, has gone up 8% in actual value. That means the stock price has gone up 8%. My actual return is 8% plus whatever the dividend would be. So in this case, if we're going to say 3%, my total return would be 11%. Now, one of the ways for a younger advisor, to, as I was many years ago, to learn about this and to utilize it with their clients is to describe the fact or to emphasize the fact that dividends are really a way to gauge the health of a company. Okay, and why is that? Well, the very first thing a public company has to do before they pay salaries, before they cover overhead, like pay for their electric bill, the very first thing a publicly traded company has to do is pay their dividends. Okay? They have to pay their bond income if they have outstanding fixed income devices like bonds, corporate bonds, preferred stock, different fixed income instruments. The other thing they have to do is they have to pay their dividends, okay? So before the CEO gets that nice big compensation salary package, before they get their paycheck or anybody else, that company has to pay their dividends. So it is a metric of the health of a company. And there are some very well-known investment gurus, one of them being Jeremy Siegel, who has been around for a long time. And his favorite area are dividend-paying stocks. And historically, they are typically more resistant to downturns because dividend-paying stocks are typically not growth stocks. Some growth stocks pay small dividends. Apple pays a small dividend. And there are some other ones that pay small dividends as well. But growth stocks, and in particular tech stocks, don't typically pay large dividends or something over 2% or something that would be considered significant. So you're looking at other areas, whether they're healthcare, whether they're energy, whether they're financials, whether they're industrials. A lot of those companies pay dividends, and companies that most people have heard of, whether it's Pfizer, whether it's JP Morgan, There are a lot of very well-known companies uh, that pay dividends, Procter and Gamble, Clorox. Okay. So one of the things that you could do in a brokerage account or an investment account is you can buy stocks like this. And if you don't need the dividends, you can reinvest them. And what does that mean? Well, I can set up my account so that when that dividend comes in, that amount of money paid typically quarterly for stocks is then reinvested into, say, JP Morgan, and it buys a small incremental amount, a fractional amount of stock. But if you keep doing that over time, obviously it makes a difference. And it's something that we always recommend clients do if they don't actually need the dividend income. So that's one way that looking for dividends and implementing a strategy like total return investing, I think is something that a lot of people miss out on doing. Very, 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 most of the time, people get enamored with growth. And I'm 57 years old. Again, been doing this for 30 years already, but I tend to lean towards growth investing. But I do have a number of things in my retirement accounts that pay a nice dividend, and I simply have it set for those dividends to be reinvestment and buy me more shares of those stocks. So what then happens? You have an engine in those stocks that you're actually making larger, okay? And what does that mean? Well, if I have more shares of a dividend-paying stock, I'm getting more dividends. So when somebody actually gets to the point of retiring, if they still own that stock, if they still like that stock, you can change the setting on an account to where you take those dividends in cash and they're not reinvested anymore. And to me, that is a very, very powerful strategy to employ. Again, I do it for myself with a few of my investments. But again, at my stage, I am much more growth oriented, but even so, I am doing it with a couple of my holdings. I use this quite often with some of my clients that are in retirement or getting close to retirement, pre-retirees, where we look for stocks opportunistically that pay a nice dividend, some 5, 6, or 7% or even more. And I want to buy them at a good entry point. And the whole idea is if I'm making 6 or 7% on a REIT or on a financial company or on an energy company, and I'm again looking for an opportunity for that stock or an entry point for that stock to also appreciate a little, well, even if it just goes up a few percent each year, that total return is going to potentially be close to double digits. And to me, that's the golden spot that you want to be in. If you can get a total return that's in that 8 to 10% range without too much risk, then you're really setting yourself up for investment success. So again, we'll talk about this more in the future, but that's really kind of in a quick nutshell what total return investing is. We're looking for dividend paying stocks that are also going to have some kind of appreciation potential, and we're just going to hold them for the long term. So again, I'm John Perry with Steel Peak Wealth Management. Thank you for listening to the Peak Wealth Podcast. If anybody has any questions, they can contact me directly. You can see the email address on the screen, but it's john.perry@spwm.com. You can find me and our podcast on Spotify, on YouTube, Apple, and I really appreciate you listening to our episodes. And again, if anybody has any questions or want to get in contact with me, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you again and have a great day.